going to learn how to resize different documents and to also export into different file formats using Illustrator. So let's go ahead and open up Illustrator. I'm going to go ahead and open up a pre-made postcard that I did. It's an extra large postcard size that I did a while back, just as an example. Well, first of all, let's go ahead and check the size of this document. Let's go to File, Document Setup, and we're going to go to Edit Artboards. And up top, you're going to see the size of the document. It's 11 inches by width and 6 inches by height. So this is kind of your extra large postcard size. So here's what I want to do. I have this postcard, but it's for print. I really want to make a social media post out of this. How do I do that? A couple things you can do. You could go to File, New, and create a digital artboard. So let's say we're going to switch to pixels. We're going to make that 1200 by 600 pixels, which is kind of your standard Facebook post. Don't need to worry about bleed, and do RGB format. Click OK. So it's going to open up a new artboard. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click over to my postcard size, and I've already sent this to the printer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all. Let's get rid of any of these elements out here that I don't want. Okay, I'm going to select all, right click, and group. And that's going to make it a lot easier for me to just do one click and it automatically selects it all now that it's grouped. And I can bring it over to the new document I created. And you're going to notice it's probably going to be not the right size. That's no problem. We already have everything grouped. Let's go ahead and hold down the Shift key and go ahead and drag this out. It's going to drag it. Since I'm holding down the Shift key, it's going to scale everything proportionately. Let's go ahead and see how close of a match this is. It's actually not too far off on the sizing. We're not going to need to adjust too much to make it work, maybe just a little bit. So that's going to be, let me make it a little smaller, make sure that top portion is going to be within the artboard. Let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. Okay. Make this a little bit smaller. Okay, there we go. Now that we kind of have it set kind of in the center, everything else is contained in the artboard, we're going to go ahead and right click and ungroup everything. So now I'm going to be able to extend some of the background out to this area. We don't have any kind of white borders. Go ahead and extend the background out. Okay, I don't need that photo. There's some little things you can adjust to optimize it for Facebook. This is a lot of text, so there's definitely some things that I can get rid of. I can always put it in the detail of the post instead of on the image. Probably don't need that either. I want to make our website a lot bigger. Drag that out. Okay. I think I'm pretty happy with that now. It's a lot more clean. So what do we do now? So we have this environment already set up for digital. We resized it. So we were able to take our print document and create a social media post out of it in no time. That's the great thing about Vector. We were able to make this image smaller without blurring any of the images and just Photoshop. If you did in Photoshop, you might have a problem resizing. So that's what I love the Vector environment for. So let's go ahead and export this as a JPEG. So how you would do that is go to File, Export, Export As, and let's do Facebook post. And here's a big trick you need to learn is click on the Use Artboards tab. What that's going to do is when you export it as a JPEG or a PNG, which are both widely used formats for social media, it's going to keep everything within the artboard. It's not going to extend anything outside, show anything outside of the artboard. We don't need that. So go ahead and click on Use Artboards and Export As. And let's do JPEG. And we're going to do Export. And it's going to give you some sizing. Obviously, it's a balance between high quality and also size. You don't want to make it too big for people to download on their phones or they're going to use all their data. It's a balance. I usually like to do somewhere in the middle. If this is for Facebook, I usually like to do high. because Facebook will automatically lower the resolution for you. So I like to just upload the highest resolution and hope for the best and see kind of where they kind of downgrade the resolution. Screen is kind of your standard resolution, but with Retina display screens, which my Apple laptop is, that's always 300 ppi. For all those people who are surfing the web, you have 300 ppi, they're going to see everything nice and crisp if they have a Retina display. So higher the better is kind of my motto. So let's go ahead and click OK. And so there you go, there's the JPEG. So let's go ahead and minimize that. Here's our Facebook post, let's double click, and there's a perfectly sized JPEG. And let's see what else we could do. So we can also do a PNG. We can resize the format. Let's do document setup. Let's go to edit artboards. Let's say I now need a 1000 pixels by 500. Let's say it's a different format, or let's actually do an Instagram post. These are going to be 500 by 500 pixels. Usually it's a perfect square. So now what do? So kind of the same thing. We'll just continue to resize. We're going to select all. We're going to right click and group. So now it's going to be easy to resize. We're going to click our grouping, hold down Shift, and drag down to make it a little bit more palatable of a size. So I'm really going to have to eliminate more elements here to make it work for Instagram. So let's see, I'm going to put my logo in the middle. So let's ungroup. And we're going to start eliminating elements we're not going to need. So we can always put this on our landing page. We don't really need it in our ad. So let's eliminate that. Let's make our website nice and big. Drag this over. Just dragging these little shapes over using the selection tool. We have our background. And sometimes you'll have to do some work and redo images and backgrounds to fit a little bit better, and you can always do that in Photoshop. Now let's see, do I even need that? I probably don't. So let's go ahead and eliminate that. So really just have our logo. There we go. It's kind of more just a click for more info kind of Instagram post. So now we want to export as a JPEG. We're going to click on that artboard selection so it's not going to print anything outside of this artboard or export. So we're going to go File, Export, Export As. Let's do a PNG. Actually, let's stick with JPEG. That's usually a good format. So we're going to do Instagram. We have our Use Artboards clicked. Export. Everything looks good to me. Click OK. Go to our desktop. And here's our Instagram post. And here's our Facebook post. Let's go ahead and zoom out so we can see that. And zoom out so we can see that. So there you go. It's easy to resize. And that was taken from a print file. We just opened up a digital file with the right specifications, dragged it over, and resized it. So let's say I want to do a print. I'm ready to send this to the printer. How do I do that? Well, let's make sure this document has bleed. I'm sending it off to an online printer, and they do require 1/8 of an inch of a bleed. So I'm going to go to File, Document Setup. I'm going to click up once on bleed. That's going to add your 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. Click OK. And as you can see, the bleed doesn't extend all the way out, so let me just make some adjustments. Zoom out, usually that helps out a lot. Make sure to extend this out. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll make sure everything is contained within the artboard. Anything between the artboard and the bleed will be cut and trimmed. You will not see that. So make sure there's not any text in there or anything that you want people to see. So next we're going to select all, and we're going to go to Type and Create Outlines. This is going to take all your live text and create outlines. This is going to render the text uneditable, but this is good. That means when the printer opens the file, he does not have to have your text to be able to read it. It's going to basically make text a shape. So that's what you got to do anytime you send something for the printer. So now that we've done those two elements, bleed is set, all the fonts are outlined. We're going to go to File, Save As, a little bit different than Export, Save As. And some printers ask for an EPS, that's a vector file, that's great. But a lot of times they like a finished document with a PDF. Just click on PDF. We're going to go to, we want to save this to desktop and save. And let's see, we want to do, usually let's go ahead and work with Illustrator default since I have all these pre-saved settings, which are really nice if you do the same saved file over and over. So here's Illustrator default. So we're going to go ahead and select that. You want to uncheck this top box, Preserve Illustrator Editing Capabilities. You want to uncheck that because if you do not, the file will be mega large and it'll be hard to send to people. So this will drastically reduce your file size. So go ahead and click on that. And let's see, do not worry about some of these other things. Marks and bleeds, we want to make sure we give them that bleed. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this is already selected. It says Use Document Bleed Settings. We already made those settings earlier on, so just make sure that's clicked. And here's our marks. Some printers like to have the trim marks. I go ahead and select that. That's usually been something they've been fine with. So I click on trim marks, make sure that is selected. You can pause the video, take a screenshot of this so you can have that in your records anytime you are ready to save a file. And I do not worry about any of this. That's it. So you just have to go to Marks and Bleed, make sure that's set. And on General, make sure Preserve Illustrator Editing Capabilities is unchecked. And sure, we want to view your PDF after saving. Great. Save. Saving this document, it's going to warn you about this, but do not worry about it. You already have a vector file saved where you can go back and edit it. So click OK. Saving PDF file. It's going to open for us. And we have just created an Instagram post, a Facebook post, and now we have a document with bleed ready to send to Vistaprint to create a jumbo flyer or a jumbo postcard to send out. So we just created several elements in about 10 minutes. So that's that. Thank you so much.